Good evening, Facebook detoxers. So I'm just getting myself comfortable. I thought that we would go ahead and just do a Facebook Live this evening, and I'm hoping that all of you can get on here. No problem whatsoever. Hey, Nicole. I see you. Hi, Teresa. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to go over some background stuff. Hi, Pam. Okay, good. So I'm sorry, Pam. The other day I posted that I was going on Facebook Live, and then I forgot to put the exact part where I tell you it's Tuesday. So I made Pam like fly around Facebook trying to find us. And meanwhile, I was out for dinner. So I apologize for that. Hi, Heather. Hi, Catherine. Sense, and then Sarah, all the way from Victoria. I'm so glad that everybody could be here. Hi, Erin, Mary, Catherine, everybody. I know you can see each other, so you can say hi and wave to each other. It's interesting. Many of you are practice members in the clinic, and I feel like sometimes I should be introducing you, because sometimes I have those days where you're just all coming in succession, one after another, and I see you chat on Facebook, but you don't know each other in real life, and I feel like it's not my place when you're under my care at the practice to out each other, but I feel like kind of going, hey, you guys know each other. Anyways, I wish I could do that. It just doesn't seem appropriate. But I'm happy to see that so many of you are on here. I tried to go a little bit later so some of my West Coast people could easily get on here. Hi, Deb. Hi, Anne. Hey, Erin. I saw that you won something on Facebook from Kindness Warrior, you lucky duck. Okay, so I see that most of you are on here, or at least probably the ones that are going to be able to join us tonight. Tonight, it's a bit of a mishmash of different topics and questions and things that have come up for people. I'm also going to talk about the heart set and the mindset of success, which is clearly a large topic, but I'm going to do my best to just give you what I think is maybe pertinent to what we're doing right now. You have officially come to the close of your third week. So you are starting week 4, which is absolutely incredible. Like, that's incredible. A lot of people can't maintain things for 2 days, let alone, for 4 weeks. And here we are, we're going into our 4th week. So I just want to say kudos. And I know a lot of you are saying, or some of you are saying, oh, well, I started a couple days later, I did this, or, I went away one weekend. Who cares? It doesn't matter. You have been focused on this for the better part of 3 weeks, and here we are already going into week 4. So congratulations, I think that's incredible. The first thing I want to say is, when we're talking about heart set and mindset of success, the first thing I want to say is, what is your definition of success? It occurred to me partway through this program that I have ideas of what maybe would be successful for people in this program. But, here we are, we're 21 days in going into week 4. And what I would love to say to you is, are you clear for yourself what you believe success is in this program? Because success can be many things. It can mean that, you are getting 40 grams of sugar or less. You could say that, you're having more strategies that you're doing on a regular basis than you were before the program began. You could even be just changing your relationship to food. A lot of people have a very adversarial relationship with food. They find food very punishing or very restricting. Is there a flip in the way that you think about food? Is it more of a friendship relationship, a nourishment, an act of self-love, something you do for yourself, not to punish yourself? Does it feel good to nourish yourself in the way that you're nourishing yourself in this program, as opposed to feeling like you are restricting or dieting or not having what you want? That for me would be success in this program, if you in any way adopted more of that than you did before you came into the program. And that you're thinking of this as something you're choosing to do, not something that you're having to do. Because sometimes it's that perspective alone that makes a big difference. So what I'd love to say is, if you haven't been super clear for yourself what it is that you would define success in this program, and maybe there's many parameters, I'm going to open up a bit of a Facebook feed on this after tonight. And I would love if you would feel vulnerable enough or bold enough to be able to tell us what some of your ways that you're going to define success for this program, okay? So I want to know how you're measuring success. the one thing I'm constantly reminded of from everyone in this program, and certainly from the repeat detoxers, is that this is the cultivation of a lifestyle. So it very, very, very much is a process. So when you're talking about, you know, the heart set and the mindset of success, it's redefining in some ways how you look at it. If you realize it's a process, then you have a different level of expectation on yourself. And that's what I would love to see, is that you're thinking of it more that you're taking the pieces of the puzzle and you're putting it together day after day after day. And that way, again, we go back to this concept. You're not thinking, you know what, this requires me to be perfect. I have to be nailing it. It's more like I'm making progress. I'm doing something I wasn't doing before. And it doesn't matter if it is only 20% better than you did before you began this program. 20% going forward over days, weeks, months, and years is absolutely monumental. And I actually feel like those are the kinds of things that stick for you more than anything else. I know this is a top-heavy program. This is probably the most ritualistic thing we do, is how we feed ourselves. And so many of us have adopted or become complacent or had a very stressful relationship with food. And this is the one thing that we always just feel like we're butting heads with. So it takes time to be able to shift the way you look at food and shift the way you think about nourishing yourself with food. All right. So as you go through, I very much know that this becomes one of those things where you have to be so conscious at the beginning. And I feel like a broken record when I say this, but I think it's just worth mentioning over and over again, is it becomes unconscious with time. So the things that feel like so much effort. So when I said to you, where are your roadblocks? What are the things that you're bumping into in this program? A lot of it was stuff where I get it. I'm like, I'm sure those are roadblocks. We'll mention some of them this evening. And these things will become more unconsciously competent with time. So right now you're having to pick up a label and read it, and you're always referring back to the guide, or you're Googling something. I get it, you know, but now, and not just now for me, but for years now, this has been something where there are so many parts of this that are just really a big part of who I am. And so I still pick up labels, I still read things, I still do all that. I'm still Googling stuff from time to time, but it's so much less of a chore than it used to be. And I know that some of you repeat detoxers, or some of the people who have been living this outside of the program for longer, would say, absolutely. So can you give yourself the latitude to, you know, pause once in a while and default to old ways of being and old ways of nourishing yourself, and then just pick back up and just not get stressed about it? Because that is the way that we make change. So rarely do we make change that every day is just better than the last and we never look back. It just doesn't look like that. So much of it feels like you're squatting and then you're jumping, and then you're squatting at a new normal, and then you're jumping again. And when you're jumping, it's great. You feel, hey, I'm getting lots of progress. But when you're squatting to jump, it feels like, oh, I'm doing the same old thing over and over. So that perspective piece is really big when you're talking about, you know, what are the mindfulness components of how I'm approaching anything in life, let alone this program, but then also the heart set. You know, what are your expectations on yourself, and how loving and gentle are you with yourself? I mean, food is such a big thing, and let's face it, for a lot of the people that are in this program, you tend to be the ones that make the majority of the food for the people in your life. So you're feeling not only the stress of having to feed yourself, and I'll say this properly, but you're also feeling the stress of bringing other people along with you, which is fantastic. But can you just acknowledge to yourself that that is no small feat, that you're trying to regulate yourself and control yourself and create this for yourself, and then you're feeling on some level responsible for the people around you. So just take a moment from time to time and really reflect back on what you are doing, not the things that you haven't nailed, but what are you doing right now that you weren't doing before, or you're doing more consistently now than you were doing before. Anything that you're doing now that is a different way to nourish yourself with more whole food and more low sugar, you know, options and so on, that's what you want. Fantastic. All right. So that's the perspective. And one of the ways that I gain perspective for myself is I really work on reflection. My easiest way to reflect back is to do something I call deconstructing your day. I love to do it every day. I clearly don't do anything every day, but I definitely do my best. And the deconstruction for me is sometimes pen to paper. That's when it works best. That's what I would encourage you to do. The end of the day, I spend a couple moments reflecting back on my day. Open up my journal, or I use my gratitude journal, and I will make a couple notes about how my day went. If I had a fantastic day, like I just felt, for the purposes of this program, if I felt like I had energy, if I felt like it was easier than it was hard, that I felt like I ate the way I wanted to eat and hydrated myself the way I wanted to hydrate, and I had the energy and I showed up in my life the way I wanted to show up, then I reflected back on my day and I asked myself, what time did I get up? What did I drink today? Who did I hang out with? How did I spend my time? What were the conversations that I had? Who did I have the conversations with? What was my planning like? What was my prepping like? Where did I have food, and how did I access that? And I look at all these components that made up my day, and I just reflected on it, basically like shining a light on it. I didn't go, oh yeah, you did that, or oh yeah, you did that. I mean, when the day's great, that's awesome to do. But I just reflect on it. I look at, what were the things that I did today, right? And tomorrow I do the same thing. If I had another great day, I reflect across the whole day again. I deconstruct and I look at, what time did I get up? How much sleep did I get? What did I eat in the morning? What kind of snacks did I make myself? Who did I have conversations with? Where did I spend my time? How much time was I on the computer? Did I move my body? What time did I go to bed? I do it all again. And I simply just look at what were the components that made up the day. And then on those days when I don't have a great day, when I don't have the energy, maybe I felt crabby, or I felt unprepared, or I didn't eat the way I wanted to eat, I look at all the same parameters, not as judgment, but as a visual, just to see myself. Because I will tell you, there's two things that happen. Success leaves clues. You will start to see the kinds of things that are key for you. Across the board, I can say there's certain things, and I'll cover those, that I feel are very defining points for people. But at the end of the day, this program is about matching it to you. So you almost need to have an internal study upon yourself. So that whole part of looking at what creates success for you will start to teach you what are the things that you want to make sure that you set up for yourself on an ongoing basis. Because once you have those key things in place, it's much easier to feel the way you want to feel on a consistent basis. The other thing is that you get to know thyself, right? You understand that part of you, and that's, again, part of the whole process. So in terms of the similarities between all people, there are a few things that I do think are key, which of course is why I talk about them probably ad nauseum, which is why I have videos this year. And I want to know, is anyone enjoying those videos? Listen, I sat down with Vanessa in the summer here, and I did, I don't know, like 8 videos or something with a little piece of paper in front of me. And I'm sure probably if you listen to some of those videos, it might sound like I'm just speaking off cuff. But I really tried to put together a little bit more of the education piece. I'm wondering if you guys are enjoying them. And if you're enjoying them, I see some hearts, so thank you. I would love some feedback later on which ones you're enjoying. I put out one this morning that was on coffees and elixirs, and what elixirs are, what they mean, because there's a therapeutic side of elixirs, and what role they can play in creating a low sugar lifestyle, and just how dang easy they are. I know they're difficult at the beginning of the program because we often don't have the components, right? You're like, cacao butters, what's that? Collagen protein, oh my goodness, that's expensive. What are these mushroom elixir things they're talking about? I'm telling you, I know at the beginning you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to buy. And what if I don't like it? Then that's just something else sitting in my cupboard. But if you start to feel like now, like you're, I don't know, maybe your grocery bill is a tiny bit more contained, maybe you can afford to splurge on some of those things. I'm telling you, they're a big, big, big part of my lifestyle. And of course, there's a whole pile of different ones. So take a look at those. So these are the kinds of things I try and talk about. It comes back to the basics. The things that kind of set everyone up for success is, of course, planning and preparation. No kidding, that's a no-brainer. I try to give you some strategies how to make it easier. We'll talk a little bit about that. So the planning and preparing always is key. When you feel off track, Always just go back to that basic. Can I plan more? Can I prepare more? Can I bulk cook more? Can I have some stuff set up for myself to fall back on? That's always just the basics. I would say if you want to deepen into it, just deepen into the foundational learning, right? So there's a lot of doing. You could pick up the meal plans and you could just follow the meal plans, but you're going to get sick of them. And I'm actually impressed. There's a few of you that are actually following those meal plans, which kudos to you. That's a lot of new recipe making. But for other people, they find that difficult. And what you ultimately want to do is you want to be able to create the lifestyle for yourself regardless of the actual recipes, right? Or you want to be able to look at a recipe that you find on the internet and make it low sugar lifestyle friendly, right? That's what you want to do. So when you have the time and you have the moments, listen to the videos. You don't have to watch me. It's not necessary. Or pick up the detox guide and start reading some of the more material. I think we're up to weekly email number 6 because they come out Tuesdays and Fridays. I have education in each one of those. So those are the things. And that the reason I'm saying that is because that's the part where it's going to go from being consciously competent to unconscious. Because then you'll go, yeah, I know the difference between a carbohydrate and a fat and a protein. I mean, honestly, we assume that people know what those things are, but I'm not certain that we all do. I'm sure you all do, but I'm just saying the general public doesn't necessarily know that. And so we start with this idea that people have all this basic foundational learning, but that's probably not true. And so just making sure that you have your fundamentals correct. For example, that you are absolutely certain beyond a shadow of a doubt that you know how to read a nutrition fact label, that you know how to identify the amount of food that you have in front of you with how much sugar's there, and getting to the point where you know what whole foods, not with labels, but what whole foods have sugar and what don't. There are people for sure at the beginning who are like, does a chicken breast have sugar in it? I mean, great question. There are things that have naturally occurring sugar in them. So just every time you have a question about something like that, just take some time to look it up or access the information so that you're building your foundational base, okay? That is one of the things that's going to pay off for you in the long run, so that when you are out, for example, and you don't have something with you, of course this is going to happen a million times, where you're eating at a restaurant, you're eating at someone's house, you're jumping on an airplane, you're at a meeting, and you want to make choices that are in alignment. You want to be able to off the cuff it and actually be pretty successful. And the only way you can do that without feeling like you're just eating lettuce all the time is to actually learn the materials, right? So that you understand how grains and starches work and how they break down into sugar and how to stabilize your blood sugar so you feel good. And what is a healthy fat? What are the ones that you should be saying yes to that are constantly nourishing your nervous system and your brain and your body and creating the hormones that you need? And what are the fats that you want to avoid? Just knowing those two things are such key components of this, and how to identify, like I said, those fats and the proteins and the carbohydrates appropriately. Okay, so that's what you want to be doing. And you also want to recognize the value of whole food. I call it a sugar detox, but one of the things that I love everyone to get excited about is just falling in love with the idea that we eat whole foods. Foods that are as close to how they've come out of the ground or come from source. Because those are the types of things that our body actually knows what to do with. It knows how to break it down into the components. When you eat artificial foods, artificial sugars, and when you eat synthetic chemicals, you're not a lab. Your body doesn't know what to do with that. So when you eat those kinds of things that aren't foods, you're bogging down your kidneys and your liver, and you are derailing your body from being able to access what it needs to. So when it's over here trying to, replenish cells and have a strong immune response and do the things that it's supposed to do to keep you healthy and strong and functioning, it's over here trying to break down aspartame and figure out what to do with food coloring and all those kinds of things. So that is a big part of it, all right? Now, what else did I want to talk about? I actually have notes. And for you people who have been with me since my first program, this is impressive, isn't it? I'd like a thumbs up for that. All right, so the success mindset and heart set of all this also comes down to learning how to bounce back, right? What do you do with yourself when you I don't know, I get messages from people when you feel like you're disappointing yourself. When, you approach something with the right intention, or maybe it doesn't work out the way you want at some point in the program, or maybe at several points. How do you bounce back from these places where you feel a bit frustrated? I would encourage you to really start to love on yourself with giant respect. And I said this before, I'll say it again. So just when you misstep, or you bomb for a day, or I'll just say it, a weekend, or whatever it is that you are upset about, then I would say just call it. Just name it what it is. Just recognize what it is, and then just move on to the next moment. Instead of deciding that you are going to, wait till the end of the week, or maybe you'll pick it up next detox, or, you're so frustrated that you get uber conservative the very next day. I would just say, how you bounce back from these things is really a big part of how you're going to define success. Because in life, that's going to happen all the time. So you just say to yourself, new moment, new choice, right? Go back to your basics, plan and prepare, make a better choice, the best choice you can the next time that you get the opportunity to pick up a fork or a spoon, or you drink something from a glass. That's the mindset that's going to help you when you misstep and sidestep. Because all that time that we spend putting ourselves down, or negative self-talk and so on, never, ever, ever lifts us up and creates better behavior. Shame is a very, very poor motivator of change. Okay, so how you bounce back is a really big part. So that's what I think are a lot of the keystones when it comes to creating the mindset and heart set of success in this program. Again, it comes back to, what are you defining success at? There were a few things that people wrote down in the comments when I was asking actually about where are your biggest challenges in the program? What's coming up for people? There was a few things written, there was a lot of things messaged to me. One of the ones that I wanted to talk about was, I want to talk about the concept of emotional eating. Now, everybody experiences emotional eating, I think. For some people, it's a bigger issue, maybe I'd say, or it's more consistent in their lifestyle than others. I will never claim to be an expert on this, but I can tell you some of the things that work for me. So, for people who feel like they maybe binge eat, or they just snack, or they kind of derail themselves when they feel anxious, or they're depressed, or they're fearful, or they're bored, or they're sad, or any of those kinds of things, I think it kind of comes down with pairing new practices to those emotions. So for example, if it's commonplace for you to just kind of snack when you're feeling any of those emotions, is there something you can do that will start to pair a new behavior with it? Especially if you find it's very consistent at certain times. For example, if you find when you are super busy that you do that, can you create some different type of, I'm going to say, for lack of a better term, reward for yourself? When you know you're super busy and you spend evenings binge eating around your super stressful times, could that be a time when you can schedule a massage for yourself, or you can call up a really great girlfriend and go for a walk, or you can go to a movie in the evening, although if you find that you binge eat at the theater, that might not be you. I really love when I feel like I'm really snacky to give myself something that I think is kind of decadent. So, I'll make a super chocolatey, maybe a little bit even sweet, fat-fueled elixir. Again, back to the elixir thing, I just find that those are very satisfying for me. Candles, bath, audiobooks, go for a walk, sweat it out. I just find that there are certain times of the year, and this would be a perfect example, when it is cold out, for those of us in Canada, because I know you're not all in Canada, when it's cold out, I find the evenings can be a bit of a pitfall. So I oftentimes, and you can see my kitchen and my living room are very close together, I simply remove myself from this general area. I do, because I notice I'll get up and walk over and get up and walk over and get up and walk over. And so if I'm trying to avoid eating something, sometimes I'll just go and I'll have some, because I'll try and satisfy it in all different ways, and then I end up having some. So instead, I just never ever tell myself that something is a never, right? It's not, there's no forbidden foods in my life. It's all about choices. And when I frame it that way, I don't feel like like I can't have it, because sometimes it's the can't having it that makes me want to have something. So if I find that in the evening I am hanging out back and forth in the kitchen, I simply go to my room, or I go out and I go do something else. So putting those things together is really important. I also think it's important that you make sure that you're not really dieting at that time. In other words, you're doing a very good job of stabilizing your blood sugar. Because if you find that you aren't taking in enough, then you'll probably find your cravings increase. So it's better for you to just make sure that you are stabilizing your blood sugar with a healthy amount of fat and enough protein, so that you're feeling like this and you're not getting the highs and lows, okay? Challenges of being prepared or not feeling like you're prepared. This is always gonna come up. This is a perpetual one for everybody. It takes time to build new routines. On the other hand, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and you're expecting a different result and it's not working for you, you have to shift what you're doing, right? So you just have to take on a different way of actioning yourself. So if you just find you're chronically unprepared, you're just going to have to find some time for yourself to up your preparation. Now, I know I say, hey, on Sundays, go ahead and spend 2 hours doing this. And you're like, that doesn't work for me on Sundays. I totally get that. Not everybody has the same rhythm to their life as I do, or some of the other people in the program. So you have to ask yourself, are a couple big prep times better for you? Or maybe you're the person that needs to have mini prep times. If you can't fully prep, what can you do? Because if you define for yourself some of the things that make it a lot easier, then that's success as well. So in other words, when I feel I'm super busy, and if I've missed that prep time and now I'm scrambling because I'm in the busyness, I'll say to myself, okay, there's some minimums that have to go on here. I have to make sure I have some protein in the fridge. I want to make sure I have some hard-boiled eggs. These are just me. I want to make sure I have eggs in general always in the fridge. And I have a big giant glass container or a Tupperware container of raw vegetables. Okay, that alone just helps me. Now for you, it might be different things, but I would say the keys to preparing always are just making more of whatever you make. If you spend the time to make your dinner tonight because you found you had a little extra time, but then you didn't double batch the recipe, you just missed out on a perfect opportunity to set yourself up for further down the week or for tomorrow or whatnot. So just simply making more of whatever you make. You know, when you're cutting up enough vegetables to roast for one tray, it is literally 3 minutes or 4 minutes more work to be able to double batch that. So some of those things are just, you know, creating a new ritual around that. So that the prepared part is making sure that your house has at least a lot of the components. If you go back into the detox booklet and you see the kinds of things that you can have or that are plentiful within the program, those are the things that you just want to keep building up your pantry and building up your supplies in your house. And that way, when you actually feel unprepared, you realize you actually have more at your disposal than you think. Okay? And also for those times when you are rocking it and you are preparing and you're doing great, how much of that can you put in the freezer? You know, can you, when you've made enough rub, for example, for sweet paprika chicken, you know, can you make a double package or 3 Ziploc containers and stick that in your cupboard so that it's easy enough for you to just be able to throw the chicken in the already pre-mixed rub? Things like that, they just help. And you'll find what your points are for yourself. All right, so the thing you don't want to be doing is starting every meal from scratch. Oh my goodness, that's so hard. And that's where the double batching gets in the help. All right, so whether it's a mini prep or a big prep, that helps every single time. What else did I want to say here? Right, don't be a martyr. That's a really difficult thing for a lot of us. There are some of us in the program, and I used to be this person who felt like I was the best person to make meals in the house. And you know what, I probably am. But it's a lot of responsibility. And so I had to loosen the reins a bit. So even if I didn't loosen the reins on the making the food, there is a lot of other things that I do in the house that I needed to loosen the reins on, so I wasn't doing everything. So maybe initially when my kids were a bit younger, they didn't really help me with food prep, but they could certainly do their laundry. They've been doing their laundry since 4th grade. Is it as good as when I do it? Yeah, no, but you know, I don't really care. So you have to, you know, you can decide, you don't have to do anything. You can decide that there are certain things that you can let go of the reins to make it so that there's some space open for yourself. Now my kids are 16 and 17. And so now I really do expect them to help me. Now, they don't have to understand everything about the sugar detox. They don't have to understand to the same knowledge, although that's nice. And I try and teach them everything about a low sugar lifestyle. But I can certainly teach them how to roast vegetables, and I can teach them how to grill chicken, and I can teach them how to make a salad. And oftentimes they'll make the salad, and then when I come home, I might zhuzh it up a bit, right? I might put some raw nuts and seeds in it, or I might grate some raw Parmesan, or I might make the dressing. Now, I'll be honest, I've been doing this for quite some time now, and now my kids get it. Now they can do a lot of those things on their own. I came home tonight and my son made the most delicious, honestly, the most delicious homemade salad dressing, and he was so proud of himself. He actually talked to me about wanting to make a business out of it, which I don't think actually happening, but you never know. So, all I'm saying is sometimes we're the issue, right? We think that we have to do everything. And all I'm saying to you is you can maybe prep or plan the meals, and put it on the family calendar. And I am certain there are other people that live with most of you that can be helping out. Okay. So that alleviates some of the challenges of being prepared or not being prepared the way you want to be, is not taking it on fully for yourself. On the other hand, if you have people in your house that are completely uninterested in living the low sugar lifestyle or doing the detox with you, I always say, don't make a big deal about it. These are whole foods. This is a yummy way to eat. You do you make what you want to make. Just don't make the topic of it a big stressful point for everybody else in the house. They will learn from your inspiration and learn from you doing it for yourself, with you making it a big deal for them. And I have found, and I can see a few people who are probably raising their hand, that other people become interested over time. And it never works when you try and force somebody into something. We certainly hate being told what to do. And so, you'll find people will probably be interested in what you're doing just by the simple act of watching what you're doing and seeing how great you feel, right? And I know a lot of you know that. Okay, so another question that came up, or another challenge for people, is the dreaded lunch meeting. So you prepped your lunch, you took it to work, and then they cater it. And then there's like this yummy food, and you're sitting in this meeting and you're like staring at the donut holes. First of all, hey, why don't you join that group, what would it be? The committee maybe at your workplace that's like, hey, can we have healthy meals? Because it's super not helpful when that happens. The other thing is Christmas is coming, and a lot of the holidays, and can you maybe, I don't know, is there a wellness committee at your job? And is there a way for you to, I don't know, maybe ask them to not flood the kitchen and the reception with junk all day long? I eat goodies at Christmas, I certainly do, but we have a rule at our clinic. We just kindly and lovingly ask people not to bring us a whole bunch of homemade, yummy deliciousness. Honestly, it's very hard to say no to it, which is why it's hard to say no to it, which is why we ask people not to do it, is because what happens is we just unconsciously eat all day long. When people bring in those delicious Nanaimo bars and all those things that come during the holidays, we have a hard time saying no to it. And then we just feel rotten and not the way we want to eat for an entire month. It is so not worth it. And it's not about punishing ourselves. We just don't feel the way we want to feel. So, one aside in all this is, if you have a lot of lunch meetings at your workplace, or you have a culture in your workplace where there's a lot of junk food, can you in any way shift or influence that in a more positive direction? That would be a great long-term strategy. But when you are pulling up your chair at the meeting, I would say this. Listen, my kids have clearly been living with me for a long time, and I have been this way for a long time, and I've been very conscious and aware of what they put into their bodies. So however you want to look at it, I've just, I have not been super lenient about putting a lot of junk, certainly not food dye and artificial food in their lunches. But as you know, at school, some schools more than others, there's just constant junk food. Whether it's Tim Hortons, or it's pizza 2 or 3 times a week, or it's, I don't even remember, but anyways, or you're in a high school cafeteria where there's junk food all the time. What do you do with that? Well, this, I'm just giving you ideas because there's a segue there. But for me, when there was pizza day back at the school, I just often didn't say yes. You know, people are like, oh, it's a treat. Well, a treat isn't once a week. That's like 20% of their meals, right? That's my opinion. All right. Now, for me, what I would do is I would just decide that I was going to send them something that was more exciting than they would normally get. So if it was pizza day at school, maybe I'd make them homemade pizza. I would upgrade the experience in 5 different ways, and so that they feel like they are getting something that they wouldn't normally have in their lunch. Now, if you know you're having a meeting next Tuesday and you know they're bringing in XYZ, make a rule for yourself. Nothing's forbidden, right? If you tell yourself nothing's forbidden and you are just simply making a choice in the way that you want to nourish yourself, that kind of shifts it. So you can have whatever you want. It's just a choice of what you do want to have. And if you know there's food coming in, decide for yourself right up front what you're going to bring in your lunch and what you're going to eat and what you're going to say yes to that's already out there. It's not that it's always necessarily all or nothing. You can definitely move the dial according to how you want to. And then that gives you some flexibility and not feeling like you're denying yourself. That would be the first thing. The other thing I would say is if you want to fully just eat your own lunch, maybe just make an extra effort to bring something you love that much more in your lunch on those days when you know you're going to feel drawn to something that they're bringing into the office. In other words, if you absolutely love butternut squash soup, then make sure that you have butternut squash soup heated up and in your thermos that day so that you're looking forward to what you're choosing to eat for yourself. I don't know if that helps, but you know, I get it, that lunch meetings and stuff, when people, I can often say no to things, but when people like serve it up right in front of your face, it really takes a lot of motivation. So if I'm hungry and I haven't prepared, that's challenging. But if I know that there's going to be something I don't really want to be eating or nourishing myself with, then I just make sure that I have lots of options that I'm bringing for myself. Okay, so hopefully you find that easy and you don't treat yourself like you're dieting anywhere along this process. We're almost done for the evening. Yes, try the fat bombs. Oh, by the way, has anyone tried the fat bombs? You have to let me know. I'm a big fan of fat bombs. I have some flexible molds that I got off Amazon, and I make little tiny ones, chocolate ones actually, and I keep them in the fridge because they're mainly based on coconut oil, so they'll melt. And I absolutely love having a couple of those in the evening with a cup of tea or something like that. So if you're looking for something that's fat-fueled and delicious, then I would give those a try. Last thing. What do you do with friends and family that eat differently than you? Of course, there's the ones that live in your household, but also just the friends that you hang out with and even your family members, adult children and so on, when others have a different lifestyle. Yeah, I mean, this is life, isn't it? I find I just do me, you know, I just do my thing. You do you, I do me. I don't make a big deal about it. I don't announce what I'm doing. I just adapt. Right? So it is easier over time because I found that actually for some reason more of the people that I hang out with just tend to be more health conscious. But there's plenty of people that aren't. And I just do that. I just try not to make a big deal about it. Again, you're not going to change them. So it's just a matter of can you nourish yourself in their presence? And I just figure out a way to go about it. So again, it comes down to really recognizing what is in foods so that you can make the on-the-fly decisions that and still stay fairly consistent. In other words, you can kind of recognize foods that are really up your alley with respect to, you know, whole foods, protein-based, the right kinds of fats, and then all the accoutrements that go with it. So, you know, that's always going to come up. I find that having conversations around it with other people to explain to them what I'm doing and how I eat, it doesn't tend to work well, honestly. For some reason, it makes people feel on defensive, even if that's completely not the way you're approaching it in your mind. And then sometimes when people don't agree with your lifestyle, then they say mean things or they make you feel like you have to defend yourself, which I don't ever feel like that. But if you're in that situation where you feel like that, that doesn't feel great either. So part of it is just letting go of the need to please other people or prove to them that what you're doing is the right move, and it's just deciding for yourself that you're just going to be you and whatever that looks like, and not ever have to worry about how that reflects on someone else. All right, so that's the way I deal with the different lifestyles. I don't think that was very helpful, but that's just the way I do it. I'd love to know if you have any comments on any of that, or you have any feedback around that. That is the content that I had for tonight. I try and keep them under 45 minutes because it's almost 9 o'clock here in Ontario. So tomorrow when you wake up, you are full on into week 4. At the end of week 4, we're going to be starting to talk about the transition into the entire lifestyle component of this. You know, deciding for yourself how it is that you want to carry this forward so that you no longer think of it as a detox and think of it as your lifestyle. Lots of considerations for us to have there. Ideally, this is still a non-alcohol program. I'm not encouraging you, of course, to drink alcohol, but if you do have a tendency to drink alcohol, we'll start to talk about that next week. Don't get excited, we're not talking about that this week. And some of the other choices that you can make, and just redefining why it is you may decide or may not decide to add some things back into your diet and lifestyle. All right, so that's it for tonight. I just want to say yip yip over here. You're all doing amazing, and I appreciate that you spent your Tuesday evening with me. I'm going to go ahead and end the live video now, and I'm going to stick around on the Facebook page for a little bit longer this evening. All right, have a great night, everybody, and I will talk to you on the Facebook page. Take care.